the thought that you can get together for a week with a room full of people and get down to precise detail 12 weeks out, 16 weeks out, a year out is honestly kind of silly. I can see forward maybe, a month, 2 months with some clarity, but and then when I start taking step forward, I learn some things, I adjust some things. Certain things get thrown out, other things come to the fore, and that's how it should be. Getting those things into your sort of cadence and how you do this practice makes a lot more sense to me than sort of this linear, we're done with discovery, now we build for 6 months, and then we're going to unleash it on the public.
Welcome to the Forward Slash, where we lean into the future of IT. I'm your host, Aaron Chesney, with my beautiful co-host, James Carmen. Our guest today is Steve Berardelli from Callibrity, one of our cronies. Steve has been creating enterprise solutions for over 25 years. Helping teams perform at optimum levels is his passion, and we're lucky to have him here at Callibrity as our Foundations practice lead. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
So today we said we were going to talk to you about discovery, which reminds me, I was watching Discovery with my son last night, and it was a show on the humpback whales, and he let out this loud yawn, and I looked over at him, and he was like, "Well, I'm just speaking in whale." And I'm like, "Well, okay. You're doing very well."
Very, very well. Wow.
That was a lot of setup there. I'm watching the Discovery Channel. That was, man.
That's wow. Wow, Aaron.
That was, how did you make that up on your own?
You think? No?
No, I actually didn't.
That came from somewhere else?
Yeah, but there's not a whole lot of dad joke material on the subject of discovery.
Okay.
There was one about Newton that, it's all going down now.
Oh, great.
That's better than doing very well.
Whale.
Okay, so who's this Steve guy?
Yeah.
Did he cover everything in your intro? Has he told us everything there is to know about Steve Berardelli? And it's not Ghirardelli like the chocolate.
If it was, I would not be working.
Yeah.
Right.
My chocolate fortune.
And you'd probably be a few 100 pounds heavier.
I would probably be.
Yeah.
Because that's
true. Yeah. True. Would not be my Svelte 172.
Okay, what else? So, what else do we need to know about Steve? What do you like to do, Steve, in your spare time and stuff?
In my copious amounts of spare time, I go to the gym just about every day. I like to get my exercise in. I like to stay healthy if I can. I like to cook a lot, so always looking for new recipes. Right now is soup season, so I probably make, honestly, 2 or 3 giant pots of soup every week because we go, I got to feed some people here. You know what I mean?
I understand.
So, yeah.
I know something about it. So Steve and I have worked together for a long time.
I didn't know we were dishing secrets today, Aaron.
Well, it's not really a secret. It's just something I think is interesting about you.
Oh, boy.
Is that you're into your motor vehicles.
It's true.
So, he's always had cool motorcycles, cool cars. What was that thing that you had, the one that I think you just got rid of?
Oh, no, I didn't get rid of it yet.
Oh, you didn't get rid of it yet.
No.
What is that thing?
It's
called?
a Vanderhall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing is, it's that screams motorized toy, right? It's great.
It is pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah, I do enjoy driving quite a bit of all sorts of vehicles.
So what about your career? How did you get into this field? Did you go to college and study computer science or something like that? Or are you traditionally
No,
trained?
I am one of those weird cats that seem to be more prevalent in our field. And it's an interesting path, right? Like, so I thought I was going to be in advertising because I really liked the creative side of it, right? And I did that for about 5 years after college.
I
And
knew you were a madman.
yeah. It it after a while, it's a bunch of sales, and while I don't really mind, I like the excitement of getting new accounts and coming up with the creative plans, and I used to love writing the script and doing the commercials and all that stuff. It just wasn't as fulfilling. And one of the I did some work with a very small web development company called Magnasoft, like 2 or 3 people at this place, right? And they needed somebody to run projects for them. And I said, okay, because we had been doing some work with them and they were developing some custom websites for us. So I started working with them, being a more or less a project manager, and got involved. Just, we have deadlines, right? Staying up till 3 a.m, trying to help any way that I could to get this thing out the door meant, I kind of learned how to write a form, in HTML. So learned a little bit there. It's one way that I could help. So I started doing that and realized, like, oh, this is really cool, actually. You know what I mean? I love writing a little bit of code and whatnot. So when it came time for them to say, hey, Steve, do you want to come work for us instead of what you're doing now? I made a deal with them and I said, look, if you teach me how to write code, I will come work for you. And I even took a small pay cut to do so. Absolutely a pivotal moment and the smartest thing I ever did in my life, honestly. And it is one of the great things about it is when you really figure out what makes you tick and then you just run at it. It's amazing how that will transform your life. And being here at Callibrity as a foundations practice lead, I mean, I have the best job on earth, honestly. I get to work with a lot of great people, helping them grow, helping them expand their skills, helping them find their passion, much the same way that people helped me when I was younger. So, could not be just more engaged, more happy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you and I have crossed paths with some legendary mentors.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It's funny when you have somebody that just believes in you when even you don't even necessarily believe in yourself or know what you're capable of. Amazing things can happen in that space.
That is definitely of all the people, I interviewed a lot of people for our company and like different backgrounds, but like, you hear a lot of like electrical engineering, mechanical, any kind of engineering leads into it.
Right.
Advertising is not up there on my list of like the ones I hear a lot about. So
exactly.
That's unique for sure.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, right, like it's the technology is I think a common thing that we all share, right? Like we love to play with new technology, love to get in there. And I did realize when I started writing code, like a light bulb goes off and I'm like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I need that puzzle in my head all the time, right? And James, you and I have talked about this. Sometimes you fall in love with the problem, right? And there's nothing quite like it when you spend, a couple of days thrashing about a problem and it's beating you up, right? And you're frustrated. And something my dad used to tell me is like, well, when you're frustrated, it's a good thing because it means you're learning something. And he's absolutely right, And you have that moment where it might be, 2 a.m, and you have this realization like, oh, wait, I think I got it. And you run to your computer and it's one beautiful line of code that solves everything. And all at once you're thinking, why didn't I see this, before? But wow, it's an amazing feeling when you solve a problem, a really difficult problem. And one of the best things about what we do is the people and the teams. And it is why I'm so passionate about people and leading those teams. Having a team work together on some really difficult problems and coming up with solutions together. Nothing quite like that feeling.
I will say though, when that lightning strikes and you get that idea, make sure you towel off before, because waters and computers don't mix. I know you're excited that you've got the solution, but safety first.
Safety first.
That's today's PSA. Towel off before you put that idea into your computer. Close optional, as long as your webcam's off, right?
Well, it's funny because what people refer to that as is the eureka moment, right?
Yeah.
That's your eureka moment, and that comes from Archimedes. He was taking a bath, and it's funny you mention that because the story has it.
Yes.
He jumped out of the bath naked and ran out into the street. Eureka! I found it. Right? Like that's the story. So yeah.
Oh, well, a lot of times too, it's when you walk away from the problem long enough for the tension of trying to solve the problem fades away. So, calming things, baths, showers, rest, getting ready to close your eyes for the night, those types of things that calm your mind, all of a sudden that's when the lightning strikes, right? Because that's you've allowed yourself to relax and let go of that. I've actually used meditation before when I've got a problem, to clear my mind and allow those random thoughts and solutions to come in. It wasn't terribly effective, but but anything like that. Sometimes, and sometimes it's just talking the problem out.
Yeah. Right. Well,
I know a lot of us have had like little figurines on our desk and stuff, and we literally called it rubber ducking, because you would have like a little rubber duck on your desk that you would talk the problem to the rubber duck, and just in the act of verbalizing that problem, the solution comes to you. So it's another great technique for that.
For some people, they go fishing. For other people, they do other things. Like I've always found that like having, like you said, right, something where you have to concentrate on something else really pays off, and letting those thoughts percolate, letting things come to fruition, right? For me, back to driving and riding motorcycles, but for me, that motorcycle was, therapy. You oftentimes get to the end of your day and your brain is just turned into a pretzel. That ride home, letting that wind just blow all the cobwebs out of my brain, had such a way of clearing my head and letting those things just sort of percolate. And sometimes it comes to you immediately, sometimes it comes later, but it allows for that, so I think anything we can do, you can't grind away at it 100% of the time. You have to take those breaks. You have to refresh. You got to unplug a little bit.
Well, yeah, because if you're pounding away at it nonstop, and not taking any breaks, your anxiety level will increase.
Absolutely.
And that's going to form a blocker to new thoughts, because all you're thinking about is the negative, and you get this snowballing effect. Right?
Absolutely. Right.
You're like, and then little things that were working will start to break, and it's kind of weird how that happens. But you start overlooking simple things, and steps that cause more errors to happen. And when you take that step back and come back to it, and it can be just a 5-minute break, it could be just a walk around. Take a quick 5-minute walk. We used to do that at Cengage all the time. Hey, let's go for a walk.
Yep.
And let's go stretch. Let's,
right,
something, and go get a cup of coffee and talk to a buddy or something like that. Take that little mental break. Come back, sit down at it. You've got to re-engage, which is about a 15 to 20 minute exercise, and sometimes through re-engaging, you're like, oh, well, I forgot to hit build, right?
How many times, honestly, because, I'm not that bright. How many times have I looked at a problem that I was struggling with, read the same log message 10 different ways from Sunday, and you get stuck in that rut where you're like, that should just work. Why doesn't it work? It should just work. Try it again. And I'll try it 100 times with the same damn result. It really, and you have to take those breaks, right? Like I had one of my managers, Jay, was great for that. Like he would come to town and we would go for a walk for like an hour and just talk about anything other than work. And it was amazing, honestly. Like it helped me so much to get out of my own head, to get a little bit of clarity of thought when I got back, a little refreshed. I remember like Pedro, he used to put his head down every afternoon for like 15, 20 minutes and go to sleep.
Yep. He took his siesta every day.
Every day. And it is amazing what that does for your mental clarity.
And we even got to the point where we knew, Pedro, you need to go take your siesta. Because he would literally start mentally shutting down and like, and you could just see the frustration on his face. Like, go take your siesta. We'll come back to this in 15, 20 minutes. So he was he is Brazilian. And so it was like, yeah, in my country, we take an afternoon nap. I'm like, all right, well then by all means,
right,
do what you need to do.
Right. I couldn't agree more, man. We have such a weird notion of work ethic in this country, and I was it's funny because I was talking to my son. He's an engineer at Rivian, and he was getting a little stressed out, right? And I was talking to him. I said, well, tell me what your day looks like. He's like, well, I get up at 6:00. I'm hitting my emails. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm like, whoa, brother, like, you need to give yourself a little time to wake up. Like, I don't know if that means having a cup of coffee or going out for a run or doing whatever. I go, but you need to like give yourself time to percolate those thoughts. Like an old colleague of mine used to call it feet on your desk time, where he would say, put your feet up on the desk for 30 minutes before you get started and just let your thoughts come, and little things will come to you, right? Like, oh, I need to do this or I don't need to do that. It just has a way of setting you up for the rest of the day.
I was going to say that, these techniques for trying to spawn ideas and keep your motivation going require a lot of self-discovery. But, discovery for ourselves isn't the only thing that we need to do discovery for. We also need to do it for our products, right?
We sure do.
What even is discovery in our world? Like, what is that?
I mean, discovery is, trying to get your head around, any of our clients, right, that come to us with problems that we need to solve for them. We're going to build something to solve it, right? I tend to want to know what I'm building to some degree before I get started. Otherwise, we're just swimming in circles. It's a lot of rework. It's a lot of expense. It's a lot of just misdirection and lack of communication, and a lot of bad things happen. Not the least of which they spend inordinate amounts of money and don't really realize the value that they were looking for. So, some period of discovery to flesh out, like, oh, what is it we're trying to accomplish here? Why is that important? And what does that even look like, right? What does that vision look like? How do we deliver on that? Spending some time up front to do that, and I know, for God's sakes, the agilistas are going to scream, right?
But Steve, that's not agile.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
On cue, perfect.
On cue. But it actually is. I'm sorry. Agile doesn't mean you have zero plans. Agile means, forget about the capital A agile, but being agile means being able to pivot when you need to. Having a plan doesn't negate that. Having a plan means I've thought things through. I've identified some risk, and I've probably thought about, like, oh, if I run into this problem, how am I going to pivot? How am I going to mitigate that risk? Right? It doesn't mean I have some plan for the next 12 months and I blindly put my head down and do exactly what it says, checkbox by checkbox, and pick my head up and say, here you go, success.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too, where whenever you find yourself asking the question, is this agile? Go back and read the manifesto, right? Does it blatantly say don't plan your work? No. It says that the best plans are around self-organizing groups.
Right.
And so it even kind of leans into, you still need a plan.
Yeah.
Right. It's just make sure you're self-organizing about it. Make sure it's iterative. Make sure that it's flexible enough to work with your change in directions that are going to come as part of the work process.
Right.
Be fluid, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of folks would argue. I don't know that I necessarily agree with them, but I want to throw it out there that like the activity of that discovery and trying to uncover what problems are we solving and all of that sort of stuff, that's a more creative endeavor than is the software development
Oh,
side,
yeah.
right? There's almost like this tale of two projects. Well, all the work that needs to get done to create that quote story, right? User story, and then all the work to take the story from where it's been written down to working software. What do
Right.
you guys think about that notion that it's a dichotomy there? Is that true? Is that a false dichotomy? What is that?
I don't think it's a false dichotomy. I mean, there are different skill sets involved. There's different focus involved.
Yeah, and I've worked both sides of that too.
Yeah.
And I know, Steve, you probably have too,
Yep.
where you do have to be in a different mindset because you're looking more at user experience and market needs and what sales wants and trying to leverage all of these different requests for what your project is solving.
That's right.
And you're not thinking about the how, but the what. What do we need to put out there to solve these problems? And
Right.
then that second part of it is now I'm going to break that down into the how, and that's where I'm going to bring in my technology folks. And it's like, okay, how are we going to tackle this, and this? And these are the most important things to focus on. Let's get a high level picture of what we're going to do. And I always use the analogy of we're not telling you exactly how to get there, but we're going to say we need to go from Detroit to LA.
Yeah.
How are we going to start?
Right.
Right? We're going to start heading west. That's
And,
a great start.
and it's not even just the what, but like the why. Because, if we've got a team of craftsmen building the solution out, there are a million decisions every day that are made that aren't even vocalized, aren't even necessarily visible, but people make decisions every day on what direction to go, solutions, and how to implement them, and all those things. If they have a good understanding of the why behind the what, they're going to make better decisions. It's going to be much more fluid. You're not going to have as much back and forth and up and down the chain and all of those misses that you typically have.
And with that same vein as to why is, what's important and why it's important.
Uh-huh.
And if you can capture and convey those things to your team, that's gonna fuel those decisions because you're gonna find out things that, you know what, I did it this way because, and they're gonna be able to justify their technical designs, their architecture decisions, and that kind of thing. And they're gonna be able to relate that back to your customer with confidence.
Right. Any good, the whole notion of it's two tracks, right? That doesn't mean that we completely isolate ourselves and run down these two tracks independently without ever communicating. That does happen, but it's not ideal, right?
Yeah, it absolutely happens.
The best that I think we've ever done this, Aaron, was on some of the projects that we've worked on together where it really is, you know, you, if you're playing the role of maybe a product owner, you have a responsibility to express the value of what we're doing. As a technician, I have the responsibility of expressing the value of the things I want to do because sometimes they're different, right? And you'll hear engineers say things like, oh, they're never going to understand this because it's so technical. They're never going to let us do this. Well, then you haven't done your job because it's always this or that. Which thing do I do next? What provides the most value for our users and the team? That's what I want to be doing every step of the way. So you have to be able to figure out how to communicate together so that you can make those decisions together.
And from the other side, from the product side, they're going to come with a lot of ideas that are going to be expensive to implement, or the laundry list is just so long, and you've got to negotiate that scope, and you have to be able to talk to your technical team
Yeah.
to to slim that down and get an iterative approach to how is this going to be delivered. So I always call that like initial product request the Ferrari. Like, we want a Ferrari, we want
Right.
it fast, we want it sleek, we want it red, right? And then as you boil it in the technical team goes, yeah, well, we can build you the Ferrari if you want it in 5 years and spend $1 billion. Yeah, we can do that. But if we understand what you're actually looking for, it's like, why do you want a Ferrari? Well, I need to look cool going from home to the office that's 5 miles away. Then it's like, okay, so the most important thing is to get from home to the office. I'm like, yeah. Well, maybe we start off with a bike. It's a short enough distance you can ride a bike, right? So let's start with that. It's got a couple wheels, it's got a seat and a way to steer, and
Yeah.
it gets you there.
Yeah.
We won't release that out as the final thing, but that gets us to step one. And then you start building off of that. Okay, let's make it a 4-wheel bike. Let's put a motor on it, and you start building it out, and eventually you get something where there's the compromise between, it's not quite the Ferrari, but we have something that works, that gets us from point A to B, that I'm okay with putting out in front of customers. And then you have a roadmap out to get closer and closer to that Ferrari vision of the product.
There are a couple of keys there on what you just mentioned, Aaron. Like, number one, don't let perfection be the enemy of good, right? Put something out there that is of value, not only because I want to establish that feedback loop with users, because I'll tell you, they will have very different ideas on what should come next and what the value is of this or that. Projects that I've worked on in the past where we did not take that approach and spent millions of dollars on a whole raft of features for this platform, and then somebody had the bright idea to say, hey, we should probably do an audit and see like what features are actually being used. And we found out that 80% of them weren't even touched. Utterly like mind-blowing when you consider how many years, how many dollars, and how much just effort and brain power go into these things. And it really got me to the point where when you get this whole list of requirements, I start to question things. Not only like, okay, how important is this compared to the other things? How much is that worth? Because a lot of times, like you mentioned earlier, Aaron, boy, that sounds great. It's going to cost this much to build. Is it really only representing like $10,000 in additional revenue, but we just spent $1 million on it? That doesn't make sense, right?
And sometimes it's the short-sightedness of, well, this feature's not really important to us, and then you put it out in the market, you find out, oh my gosh, they love this feature and they want more of this.
So why wouldn't you say something like, let's do a little bit of discovery. Let's figure ourselves out. Let's figure out what's the minimum thing we can get out there to start getting feedback on, and let our users work with us to tell us what's valuable and what ideas they have on what they'd like to see. Because there's nothing worse than putting your head down for a year, putting it out on the market and realizing, oh man, we were wrong on a few key things and nobody wants to buy this thing. And it's happened. One of the best experiences I ever had was, James, when you and I were working together on, I think we were talking about like in platform messaging or something. And we're sitting in this conference room with a bunch of VPs, bunch of product owners, right? And they're all smart people trying to do the best they can, right? Like good ideas and whatnot. And we're sitting there taking a lot of notes and thinking, oh man, okay, I got to estimate like 8 million stories here to figure out what we're going to do. And James here picks his head up and says something like this, like, I've got one question. Like, what is the single most important thing you're trying to get out of this? And they said, I really just need to like notify users of this, right? Not all the bells and whistles on how you craft that message, not all the bells and whistles on like all these fancy bleeping sirens and things like that, but very simply, I need to get a message in front of people. And light bulbs started going off around the room. And all of a sudden, we could do this thing literally in like a couple of weeks. It was very simple at first, but what it did do was help them. How do I craft that message, right? If it is it, I drop this in a file somewhere and it gets picked up, great, easy, right? So much less expensive than this grand vision that everybody was putting together. And sometimes it does take somebody to take a step back and think like, what's the goal and why, right?
Yep. And that's a perfect example of that Ferrari scenario, right? They brought the Ferrari in and we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so expensive.
But well, they had visions of like, red satin jackets with Ferrari on the back and those little fingerless driving gloves and stuff like that, right?
With the knuckles cut out and
knuckles.
everything. Yeah. I love
driving
those.
around with supermodels. Yeah.
and who doesn't? Who
Right,
doesn't
yeah.
have that vision with their?
It's if you play the game, if I won the lottery, right?
Exactly. I mean, I want my life to be a white sync video. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't tell anyone what's the memes that are going on. Like I wouldn't tell anyone if I won the lottery, but there would be signs, right? Like
right, yeah, there would be signs.
Right.
All right, I got a question though. So I know that this has kind of been that age-old struggle, right? So product business people always want the Ferrari and they want all the bells and whistles, and then they come to us, sage, wise software engineers, and we tell them you can't do that, right? So that's a little self-serving for us. I consider myself us in that story. But am I being naive to think that I know that has been a problem? Has the software engineering industry somewhat moved past it? Are we a little more sophisticated now? Have product folks understood that notion of like, I got to get MVP out there, something out there that I can start getting my users interacting with to learn more, take more of a hypothesis-driven approach? Are we there yet?
I don't think we're there, but I think we're on the way in a lot of regards, right? Like at least when you say MVP, for instance, James, more people understand what you're saying and why, right? It's human nature though, right? Like when I'm buying something, especially if I'm spending a lot of money on it, I do a ton of research. Like if I'm buying a car, I do a lot of research and I start looking at options. And of course, when I look at options, of course I want that option, right? Do I want a heated steering wheel? Heck yeah. Now I can't live without one, right? Do I want ventilated seats in the summer? Yep, I sure do. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like that, but when you see the list, of course you want those things. And it's human nature when you put so much time and effort into this vision. And you'll see that a lot of times where they've got this whole list for the Ferrari of things that it needs, and we can't release until we've got all this stuff done.
Right? The M gets bigger and bigger.
Right. And for those of you that don't know, when we're talking about MVP, we're not talking about most valuable player, which is the standard. We're talking about most valuable product or
minimally viable
or minimal viable product. So,
but that's important, right? Like it really does mean like, okay, what is the least amount that we can do to provide value and a return on this investment and start walking down that path. And that path, and another reason like why having that discovery is so important, because it helps you flesh that out. When you get to that point, now we're doing the least amount possible to get value into the market, to get that turnaround time with your users, to get that feedback. And that feedback is everything.
And for the edge leastas out there, one of the most valuable things you can have when you start a project is a prioritized backlog.
Absolutely.
Right? And the way you get to that prioritized backlog is understanding your MVP.
Yeah.
And what is the most important thing? What gets you to that first release? Because if you don't have that first release and you're just working a backlog of stories, it's like, I have stories, I'm working them. When do you draw that line and go, okay, now let's release it for the first time?
Right.
And you need to have that kind of information in the back of your brain to go, and to just even to know, yeah, we're striding good. We're doing good. We're you can do the things like burn downs and things like that because now you know. And knowing is half the battle.
It has a funny way, right? Like when you do take the time, you start to realize because you're taking more time to break things down. And when you do that, funny things happen. I can release much more often because I've broken these things down into pieces that provide value that stand on their own. And when I do that, that means, oh, guess what? Now when I release, I have less moving parts, less blast radius, less impact. I'm still putting value out there. But if something goes wrong, because it's so recent, I have a chance in hell of figuring out what went wrong very quickly. And our time to resolution is that much quicker. And again, it's the return on the investment. You know, somebody's writing a big check for this. I would rather start putting money back in their pocket as early and often as possible.
You know, I had another thought on this as I was listening to you about, understanding it up front. This is also like a shift left type of thing, right? If you shift the understanding to the left and get something that's testable that you can put out in front of a customer, a user, whatever your end audience is supposed to be,
Yeah.
just as like a test, a paper test. It could be a Figma model or something like that. It's like, what do you think of this?
Right.
You can actually start getting feedback very early in your process. And who wouldn't want to know that, hey, you know what? If we do build this feature, it's testing well. They
Yeah.
they seem to like this. They can't wait for it to come out. I know we've done some of this with UX testing early on, and I've actually been in the room when a user goes, "Is this available now?"
Right.
Right? Which is like the best question you could ever get.
Absolutely.
And it's like, no, it's we're just testing this to see, if it's something that's wanted. And they're like, yeah, we want this. This is great, type of thing.
The thing, you know, even more so than just being clear on what you're building through discovery and identifying risk and how you're going to mitigate and things like that, you tend to start thinking about, like, okay, what does success look like and how do I measure it?
Mm.
And I give enough thought of that up front to know, like, okay, is this testable? Can I test this? How do I make sure that I'm confident in the things that I'm putting out there? But also, what things do I need to measure? Let me get some benchmarks in place immediately and then gauge myself against that. So as we move, I know if I'm going in the right direction or if I'm losing ground, right? And make adjustments. And a lot of it, the things that you think through during discovery, also tend to lead into discussions about, okay, how does this team work and what are our agreements and things like that? Because I want to be very fluid. I want to be able to pivot on a dime if I need to respond to market needs, if I need to respond to other risks that happen to come to fruition and things like that, right? It really has a way of keeping you light on your feet, able to respond quickly to needs and changes and things like that. Much better when you have a plan, but also realize, like, the first step we take, that whole view changes and we may need to adjust.
Also, to piggyback on that thought is part of going through that think exercise of, how do we make this accessible? You get away from that, what I used to call the um, the 3-word requirement or the 1-line requirement, right? So, some of us have been around projects a lot early on. You get like the spreadsheet of 1-liner requirements. These are all the things
Right.
we need in the product.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is this? What does this mean? And when you start digging into those individual things, it kind of forces them to go back and go, well, what was it? What did I mean by this?
Absolutely.
And they start to think about, well, what do I really want? It's another light bulb moment, and that helps you then figure out where to ask the questions. So you ask, what is this thing? It's a kind of a why question. Why do you need this?
That's right.
Um, why is it important? Why, you can start going through your 5 whys, because we always talk about the 5 whys. If you can If you can get through a requirement with 5 whys, then most likely they understand it well enough to know that it is actually needed.
Yeah.
But if you can only get to 1 why and you've stumped your person making the request, it's probably a garbage requirement.
Or just need some more thought that we
Or
had.
more thought, right? It'll be one of those, either it's like, well, you know what, we really don't need that. Let's toss
Yeah.
that. Or it's like, you know what, let me go ask some other people on this. Let me go think about this some more, and I'll get back to you. Those are usually the two avenues those things
Right.
take.
And you mentioned something earlier, Aaron, about shifting left, and it applies in so many areas. It is not to say, okay, now we're going to do 4 weeks of discovery up front and then never do anymore because now we're in build phase. Now we're in this phase. It's never quite that linear, right?
Right.
It should be a continuous flow. I do want, our product and those requirements to come a little bit before build, but those conversations need to happen together. We need to understand each other together, and we need to be able to say things like we said earlier, right? Like, oh, I see that this is important to you and why and what you think it brings to the table for you. It's going to cost you $10 million. And you probably didn't realize that because, why would you? It's not your forte. Maybe we can come up with a better solution together just by bringing it up and talking it through. And oftentimes we do.
Yeah, it's all about moving loops left, I think, is really the key, right? So
Yeah.
it should go from like a verbal discussion about a problem
Yeah.
to, okay,
Yeah.
maybe let's draw some pictures on a whiteboard or on a napkin, for goodness sake, right? And then let's do a Figma, as Aaron was saying. Like, you get higher and higher fidelity as you go along. Like, if I was going to do a sculpture, well, how would you like a sculpture of a person with no arms? And oh, that sounds pretty cool. Well, maybe, I was thinking maybe it might look like this, and draw a picture. And then I go get a big old slab of marble and I stand it in their foyer and say, what do you think of that? Though that's a
Hey.
lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, can we maybe half size that?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And then I start, but it's about that kind of the lowest fidelity thing you can do in order to get
That's right.
feedback on what you're
Yep.
trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's where the sophistication, and I think that's where people skip over those intermediate fidelity steps, and they try to go immediately into building software. Software is expensive to build. Figma's not, right? I mean, building Figma itself was hard, but building Figma diagrams and stuff like that. And I use Figma as an example, just as a tool, but it's that rapid prototyping, the really low fidelity stuff, and it could be just a whiteboard.
Yeah, and we've had lots of tools for doing that. We had
Uh-huh.
Balsamic, and there was another one in between there that we used. But basically, having some way of representing, this is what we envision the flow of the user to be. And usually, like, my first crack at this is like a low fidelity kind of like
Yeah.
flow chart type thing that's just boxes with words and a little user on the left hand side that shows this is kind of the path that we want the user to
Yeah.
take. And then I can take that information and I can start drilling down and attaching these, higher fidelity images to. And to that point, there's a lot of different tools that you can use, and find one that works for you, and go with it. It
Right.
always makes me sad when I see, you know, a whole technology organization getting together for 2 days, and we're going to plan out all of the work for the next X amount of weeks,
Yeah.
and then they go, oh, rah rah rah, go, and then there's nothing, and a lot of times what happens is then you have your little, small conference room meetings. It's like, yeah, all that planning that we just did the last, 3-4 days a week or whatever, yeah, that's not going to work. We need you guys to focus on this now. And it's like,
Right.
well, why didn't we just do this little meeting
Yes.
instead of that giant spend
Yes.
to bring everybody in from out of town
Right.
and get them all in the same room and get it catered for,
Yeah.
120 people?
Exactly.
Why are you spending all that money when these are the kinds of things that you should be doing for planning, just by doing it continuously? Have these meetings on a regular basis, you know, every couple sprints. Let's get together and say, okay, yeah, what are the next things we need to be looking at?
Right.
Let's start our discovery on this next
Yeah.
important thing that we want to add to the product.
do just the right amount of all those things on a continuous basis, right? And it has a way of focusing everything that your team does together, right? You're able to address, you're able to pivot, you're able to have those conversations, because the conversation honestly is everything, right? Because that's where the understanding comes from. The thought that you can get together for a week with a room full of people and get down to precise detail 12 weeks out, 16 weeks out, a year out is honestly kind of silly. I can see forward maybe, a month, 2 months with some clarity. But, and then when I start taking a step forward, I learn some things, I adjust some things, certain things get thrown out, other things come to the fore, and that's how it should be. Getting those things into your sort of cadence and how you do this practice makes a lot more sense to me than, sort of this linear, we're done with discovery, now we build for 6 months, and then we're going to unleash it on the public.
Well, and anybody that's old enough to or had the experience of using the rational unified process as a planning tool,
Yeah,
right, will understand that if you hold to the strict rules of what they say to do, you are not coding until every bit of your planning is done and you've exhaustively planned everything.
Right.
And anybody that's been through that process realizes that by sometimes even day one, but by day easily within the first week,
within the first week, yes,
your documentation is complete garbage,
right?
Because you've already had to pivot because of something unforeseen in your planning.
Of course, and that's just it, though, right? Like you should be focusing on making sure that we're able to pivot as we need to be, right?
Yep.
I mean, success is not checking off every box on this 1,000-line spreadsheet and then picking your head up and saying, "Oh, cool, we're done."
Yeah, I think the natural byproduct, what we saw in the past when we did do that approach and we went through all of the hassle and investment and all of that and did all of that upfront work, was when we saw, this isn't what we want any longer, 3 days into the project, we were like, well, hold on a second. We invested millions of dollars to come up with this plan.
Exactly.
Where it's like that, we can't give up on the plan. We put so much money in that. So just keep on doing it. So in the end, you're forced to go down this road and finish it to completion and say, we did what we all, we spent millions of dollars to make this plan, so we have to do it. At the end of the day, it's not what the user needs. It's not solving the problem that the users actually have. So nobody's happy at that point.
Yeah, and that's not where the value is. There's no value. Who cares if you had some plan and you did every line item on that plan?
Right. Customers don't. It's more of a see what I can do. For product owners to say, see what I can do here with this giant list of features.
I know Steve and I are envisioning the same person in our head right now.
I know we are exactly.
I might be envisioning the same person too. Yep.
I remember being in a room with Aaron being yelled at by this person asking us to promise, can you now promise me that I will get every single feature on this thing by this date?
Yes.
And I said, no. I'm never going to say something like that to you.
Right. I couldn't 6 weeks ago. I can't 6 weeks from now. Yeah. Right. So, all right. So, all right. We go ahead. Well, go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say that that's not to say that process didn't give us some gems. I mean, some of the documenting techniques that were used in the rational unified process are still viable tools for code analysis and diagramming certain things. Yeah. But use them appropriately and kind of pull those gems out and use them as in your tool belt.
Any process. So waterfall has such a bad name these days, right? But it's not all bad. Everybody gets all hung up on it, are we agile or are we not? Or that sounds like waterfall or not. I really don't care. Be agile. Don't do agile, right? Mm-hmm. concern yourself with constantly improving and doing what's best at that moment in time. If something didn't work, you can always change it for the better. Get used to that.
Well, waterfall has a bad name on purpose. I mean, it's true. Like, it's so bad, TLC wrote a song about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how bad waterfalls were.
Right. You don't want to go chasing those. Right?
Chasing them. Like, that's how pervasive that thought of how bad waterfalls are is TLC wrote a song.
I think your timeline might be a little bit reversed on release.
Just go with it. Hey, he's rolling. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor, Aaron? No, it's over when we say it's over.
Bomb Pearl Harbor.
So, James, are you proposing that TLC is we're former?
They're the pioneers in our industry.
Former software.
They're the pioneers. They are.
The original agilistas.
Oh, I love it.
All right, so how do we know? Okay, we know. Okay, we know waterfall's bad.
Yes.
And of course, now agile's bad.
Right. Don't say it.
We're not going back to waterfall because everybody knows that's not it, and everybody's saying agile's bad. So this whole notion of planning, we know that we believe that it does pay benefits. How's the best way to balance it? When do you know the discovery that you're doing it's enough, and before you go into like the bike shedding or boiling the ocean, whatever analogy you want to use, how do you know when enough is enough? And let's actually start. Let's start slinging some code now.
I think when you've gone through this process, you've talked it back and forth amongst, your engineers, your product folks, the business itself, right? When you get your head around, okay, what's our big outcomes that we're looking for and why? And what does that mean for us? You start to develop that kind of a roadmap to say, okay, this might be the MVP that we want to produce. Here's why it's the MVP. Here's the value that it's going to bring for us. And here's the least amount that we can do to start providing value. Here's the least amount we can do to start getting feedback to help us course correct along the way. Kind of like your point, Aaron, like, oh, we're going to California. I'm making a million decisions between here and California.
Yep. Oh, giant ball of twine. Got to stop and see that. Right.
I want to see the 50-foot cowboy.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But I think when you know enough that you can deliver a piece of value that will also get you some feedback that's useful to help you guide your next steps, I think that's when you start. So there is honestly always going to be a certain amount of ambiguity, and that's okay. It's a question, for me at least, in my experience, of how much are you willing to absorb of that? And that always comes back to, okay, what's the valuable piece that I'm putting out there, and what does that do for us? If I think that that's worthwhile and that I can deliver a piece of value for the money that just got invested, and if that also leads me down a road of like, okay, now I have something that's meaty enough where I'm going to get some feedback that's going to help figure out the rest of this as we go, great, let's start.
Yeah, and with that, I totally agree with that thought of, this is our starting point. This is what our first release looks like. If you have that idea, I mean, really, that could be your stepping off point. We know what this first release looks like.
Right.
When you know what that looks like, and you can speak to the what and why of that and tell the story, and then be able to kind of foreshadow what the next things are.
Right.
But very loosely, it's like, and then from there we can extend it out to this or this, whatever we see as our, you can lay out a couple contingencies based on feedback, right? And have that conversation to where everybody's in the room is nodding. If you're not getting nods and, oh, this is great, when can we start? Then you might need to go back and rethink some things. And it may take 2 or 3 times to go, okay, this is what we're thinking. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure about this. But you're having those conversations before you actually build something. And so now you can actually pivot on your designs and your thoughts and your feature sets based on just having a little bit of plan out front.
Yeah.
Having that, and those of you that remember when AAA did the triptychs, you kind of have your initial laid out plan of the road you're going to take, and you're like, yeah, but you know what? You're really going to want to go through here because you're going to want to see this.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay, let's go back and reroute that a little bit and do that.
Yeah.
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 So you may have an iterative process for this design to go back and go, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Let's go ahead and fit this into the MVP. But if we want to release by this date, we got to let something drop. So what's our least important thing that we
Right.
can drop to get this in? And you start negotiating that timeline, especially in domains where dates are important. You know, like we all worked at Cengage together. That fall release was the most important one. In July, we had to have our stuff out the door so we could have it in instructors' hands so they could start planning their courses for the fall semester. It was the most important thing. So we were time boxed into whatever we're going to do needs to release in July. So we had to do a lot of scope negotiation
Yeah, for sure.
on, okay, what's the most valuable thing that we need to get in here? And it's like, okay, if we put this in, this is going to have to come out or we're not going to hit this July date.
Right.
And once we started working with product and they started understanding this, things went a lot smoother and a lot faster, to be honest.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of my favorite exercises during those conversations is like, you know, take the Ferrari analogy. I would draw a picture of a skateboard. And people get mad at me. I think usually during the discussion, they're like mad at me when I'm doing this. But there's a method behind my madness, right? I'm not advocating that yes, the skateboard is the solution. But putting the picture of a skateboard on the whiteboard and saying, tell me why this isn't good enough.
Right.
Articulate to me the reasons why you can't take a skateboard to work and you need, you know, why can't this work for you? Oh, well, sometimes it's raining on my way to work. Okay, there we go. Now we got another understanding of what I'm understanding my users more. Or they may be like, you know, I could probably use some exercise. All right,
Right.
exercise is good. Maybe a bike will work, or you know, whatever. Right? Like now you're starting to understand people a little bit more. They're telling you more instead of like, well, I just need this. You know, the salesperson said, wouldn't you love to have a car that goes 200 miles an hour that you can go to work with?
Right.
Of course I would. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Why
But do you
wouldn't I?
need that? Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? You can.
But that usually gets people really angry. Like, well, are you kidding? Who would go to work on a skateboard? Like, well, I actually know people that go to work on a skateboard
Oh, sure.
in San Francisco.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I know you know exactly who I'm thinking about too. But like those conversations are really good because it tells them, you're forcing them to tell you why this isn't the minimal that they're looking for, right?
It fleshes all those things out, James, and something you just said. One of the other reasons why you want to figure out, okay, what is the minimal that I can launch with? What questions am I trying to answer? Because oftentimes there's still risk involved, and I need to answer some questions and de-risk. And sometimes that means putting something out there and doing some testing. Maybe you're doing A/B testing. Maybe you're doing any number of things to de-risk and figure that out, right?
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So how do you go about, you know, you mentioned the risk in, you know, because there are some things that are very sensitive that you just can't have out there.
Yeah.
How do you address the impact of those types of things?
So a lot of times in those conversations, as we're fleshing things out during discovery, I'm usually looking for not just, hey, what do you want to build? And tell me more. And let's get more detailed on that. A lot of it is like what I don't need to do, what I shouldn't do, what risk is out there, and how do I address it? And what happens if it does happen, right? Let's say the internet gets unplugged. Wow, what do we do then? You know what I mean? And what does that mean for us to our bottom line? What does it mean for, you know, user satisfaction? All those things. Those, again, getting to those conversations, like James just said, you learn an awful lot about your users, about the business, and all parties involved, right? So pulling that together as much as I can And again, like sort of defining how we're going to do this together. What's our cadence? How often do we talk? And what are we talking about during those times, right? Pulling your product folks, pulling your engineering folks together for those conversations is key. It really is, right? To keep that understanding flowing, to keep each other abreast of any changes that's going on. Because a lot of times, let's face it, sometimes it's very technical things that will get, that will hamstring you, right? And you need to pivot on those things alone. If you're not talking those things through, not only, like, for instance, like your product folks won't understand it, but they won't trust you. And I don't know how many times I've sat in conference rooms and listened to product folks say, well, engineering can't deliver. It's because they're not talking. It's because they're not talking and they're not including each other in those decisions.
So in that inclusion. Now, obviously, you can't include everyone because then
Right.
That's not a continuous flow. That's a stop break
Right.
and then have to start up again. So in this kind of continuous planning, as I like to call it,
Yes, sir.
type of scenario, who should be in the room for discovery?
So I typically will start that with, a good product person or consultant and technical lead.
And who are they talking to?
They're talking to, our the business or the users, if possible, to get any feedback we can get. Usually product person will represent that, but if we can take that one step further and make those connections, I'm always in favor of that.
But isn't that the UX guy's responsibility to talk to the customers and find out what's best?
Well, yeah, but if so, it's like, how many degrees of separation do you want in that understanding? So I always, like, some of the best projects I worked on was where myself as a software engineer got to sit in on those sessions with, like, when we were doing accessibility for one of our products, having a blind person sit there, come to the office and go through our product while I watch, rather than get the translation from a UX person or a product person. I may see things that I didn't realize. I may be able to ask questions that they didn't think of. I think that's really important to have those different areas represented in that discovery.
Are you saying that users sometimes use your software in ways that you had not foreseen? Are you kidding me?
Sure do. I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Do what I tell them to do.
Yeah. I wrote this feature with this exact flow in mind. That's how every user will do it, right? Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Yeah. Yeah. But it does, right? Like those connections and that understanding, as much as possible, I like to eliminate barriers. I like to cut out the middleman and just be right there in the thick of it.
Mm.
That's a great thought.
Yeah.
Great thought.
Doesn't mean the whole team, right? Although, maybe you rotate them in and out. Maybe you do have a session where the whole team attends. Whatever makes sense, right?
We would usually, when we involve technology with UX testing, we would usually have that revolve because I think there's benefit for everyone on your team to at least see one of these sessions where you're interviewing a user, seeing what they're doing, because then they understand why certain design elements matter.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to coin Carmen's law right now. The length of time it takes for feedback, direct feedback from your users to the software engineering team themselves, is inversely proportional to the delight that those users will have with the product.
That's right.
It's Carmen's law right there. It's one of them.
But I'm sure take the requirements from the users to the developers. You can't have developers talking to users.
I'm a people person.
Yeah, right. But there's a lot to be said for Carmen's law here, right? Like the shorter iterations, the shorter feedback loops really do matter,
Yes.
Really, really matter quite a bit. And if you can get I remember having this conversation with one of my teams. You did the typical 2-week sprints, and that's fine. But they were struggling every deploy, right? Like, oh, we're tripping over the same rocks and we're doing this and we keep missing and blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? Why don't we try something? Let's try going to 1-week sprints. And surprised by the amount of pushback I got because, well, we can't have this, these meetings every week. When are we ever going to build anything? I'm like, well, yeah, but you're building less per sprint. So it shouldn't, it all kind of balances itself out. And, James, I've said to you before, right? Like nobody got improved their batting average sitting on the bench. And it holds true here too, right? The more often we do something, the better we get at it. So all of a sudden, every week when we're doing a little bit of discovery, we got there quicker. When we're doing a little bit of retro, we got there quicker. When we're, making these small gains and small improvements every single week, everything smoothed out. We got much more predictable, right? I mean, the goal is not to go as fast as humanly possible. It is to be predictable because then you can plan, the business can plan, and your users know when to expect things and will trust when you actually start delivering when you say you're going to deliver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at historically all the success stories in the DevOps space, it's always those companies that have pushed themselves to do it more often,
Absolutely.
not less. None of them went in and go, well, we went for a 1-month release to see how much we could actually fit in and still do it.
Right.
It was, no, we pushed the boundaries to do 10 deployments in one day.
Right.
And that's where we found the growth. So the idea of, well, we can't do it at 2 weeks, how are we going to do it in 1 week? That's
right.
That's a common misconception, because when you force yourself to do it in a short amount of time frame, you start weeding out all of those unimportant steps or things that can be deferred. Your process becomes very tight, very predictable, like you said, and you have the confidence in being able to say, yes, we can do that.
Yeah. And it has a funny way of, if you have a very manual process, if I have to do that all the time, I'm going to find a way to automate that stuff.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
If you're worth your salt as a developer,
absolutely right. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again if I don't have
We're lazy.
Or if you find out only 2 people on a team know how to build a release.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, we got to fix that because
spread that love.
If these people ever get promoted or move to another team, we can't build a release anymore.
Well, while we're on the topic of like DevOps type things or even, product things, the more you can involve people in those things, it has a funny way of, like, I've got some of our consultants right now who have realized, wow, I really like automating things and the DevOps side. So, luckily we have a fantastic practice of platform engineering that I hook them up with. And I think part of my goal in foundations practice is to help people find where their passion lies and to chase it. So, I got an opportunity early, when we started working together, Aaron, to work on a lot of like build and automation. What a flippin' riot that was. I'm not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I remember those days. As a matter of fact, I think that's what you were working on when we first met.
Yeah,
was build automation, because there was no way we were doing deploy automation at that point in time, but it was just build automation, and because we didn't even have that at that time. And the whole continuous integration flow and stuff.
It was an interesting space to learn and grow and really find that, like, I really love doing that kind of work, making that stuff just streamlined so that it becomes non-dramatic to do it, so that you can really, really focus on what value we're bringing with these features and what we're building and how do I do that better, right? Not how do I spend like a whole day trying to get the deploy out the door and pulling the various levers and triggers to make it right again, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing that's pretty interesting, I don't know, the observation I've seen of the industry over the last probably 3 to 4, 5, maybe years is there's, when we were working together at Cengagement before, like there was this emphasis on, kind of all scrunching everything into one body, one person, right? Oh, we're the full stack engineer, or I'm a DevOps. Like I need to be able to do all of my build automation, deployment automation, front end, back end, database, all of the, I'm the unicorn. Everybody has to scrunch everything into one. And now there's like this almost like counterculture now in our industry of like, I just want to write some code. I don't want to know networking. I don't want to know Kubernetes. I don't want to know so there's like this now that's like the pendulum is swinging the other way where people are just like, I just want to specialize again. I love coding. I don't love Kubernetes. I don't love this other stuff. I don't love product. I don't love talking to people. So it's interesting where we'll land on that, but there's absolutely that whole you build it, you run it thing.
Yeah.
The modern engineer largely is starting to retract and pull away from that.
Well, and that's where it's going to be important for, people like Steve and a little bit myself to be able to put these processes in place so they don't have to think about it, right? Because if I'm spending 80% of my time doing operation side work instead of an even split or even more so on the coding side,
right?
Then that process has to change. That's your feedback loop. But that's the whole idea of shifting left. It's not to put more work on the developer. It's to raise the flags of this process isn't working. We need to change it. And it's amazing how much when you focus on that for a little bit and get it streamlined, how much more throughput you have
100%.
Because you're not doing those stupid things.
Yeah. Repeatedly. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because us software engineers, good ones, a certain aspect of your being of not wanting to trust anything kind of goes against this, like you just said.
Yeah.
The motivation behind trying to scrunch everything into one body wasn't necessarily to try to get more work out of some people. I'm sure there were some people that thought that way, but by and large, that wasn't. It was more about
managers,
yeah. It wasn't about. It was more about empowerment and getting out of your way and allowing you to be more. You have more agency in your day-to-day work and more control. But of course, we don't trust anyone, so we think it's the pointy-haired bosses that are, you're just trying to make me do more work and
not at all.
Get more out of me and not pay me more money. That's
not at all.
We're a very cynical group of folks.
It really is, though, trying to put, at least the way I always looked at it, right? Because I remember having some teams where only one guy could write performance tests and only one guy could handle the deployments. And I just kept thinking in my head, like, okay, if he gets taken out by a bus, we're dead in the water, and that's not a good place to be.
Right.
So let's share that a little bit. You don't have to be the expert, but you should be able to move the ball. Right? If something happens, we should all be able to be fluid enough that we can cover for each other where needed and keep moving forward.
Yeah. You're running back, but maybe you should catch a ball once in a while.
Exactly, right? And it really is not that I want you to do everything, but I want you to be able to cover as needed because let's face it. Yeah, James, you can write code. If that goes nowhere, there's no value in it. Code, is a liability for God's sakes.
Yeah. I wrote an article a while back. I love the title. I thought it was, novel and awesome.
Did you think it was brilliant?
Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. It was something along the lines of when you're focusing on busyness and not the business. Right. So trying to make sure everybody's busy at all times instead of really focusing on the actual business. It is cute, isn't it?
That's like a little fluffy kitty. I just want to, cuddle with it.
All right. Cut that out. Yeah. Okay, we're going to edit that out. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. All right. But it's interesting. I had a client one time where we suffered from this whole hyper specialization stuff where it was like, well, I'm the database guy and I'm the this person lady and I do this. And it was, the stories would be, it was like an assembly line, right? And if your stuff got back, and then it got to the QA people, and that backed up, and we all just kind of sat around with our arms folded. QA people, they need to catch up with us, and nothing could go across. So I forced the team. We're not all working. We're not working on multiple stories.
Yeah.
We're working on one story. And the management was like, "Wait a minute, people aren't going to be busy all the time." Like, I know. Right. Well, that's okay. The people who are going to stand around and not do anything, that take care of that come annual review time. Remember that these people stand around not pitching in and hey, can I help write some tests, or Maybe I can help with database scripts or whatever, right? And it did help. That hyper focus, the whole team had to get the whole thing across the finish line, and then we go to the next one. It did help build that, because all we would do is go to the planning session. We would like, well, this is the story. These are the things that need to be done, and then we would all just scatter into our own little corners and never talk to each other again.
Right.
So it helped build that teamwork, so sometimes you got to go extreme.
In your daily stand-ups, you hear a lot less of "I'm blocked waiting for this."
Yeah.
I'm blocked waiting for that.
Exactly.
I'm blocked until I get this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, go get it.
Yeah.
Right? Go
Just
do it.
get it, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
You become more self-reliant on being able to produce work. And I agree. That is the value in being full stack. And full stack doesn't mean I'm an expert in every single part of the stack.
Right.
I have the tools I need in order to be able to at least muddle through and get this out the door if needed. In a pinch, I can help out. And I always hate hearing the labels of, well, they're a back-end developer, they're a front-end developer, or they're a mobile developer. It's like, no, I know enough to be able to help out when I need to. Right? So I don't just throw a label on me. What's my forte? Yes, it's back-end coding.
Absolutely.
Right? But I absolutely can put a screen on a mobile app.
Right.
I absolutely can put a button on a React page.
Right.
It's there are levels of things. It's like none of us started out being senior developers in anything. We all started out as junior programmers in something, and that became like our first language, our strength.
Yeah.
Right? And then we expand our skill sets from there, and we dabble in other things. One of the things that we have to do as technologists is to continue to learn new things, right? Well, that is usually pet project type work, or, doing a Udemy course or watching YouTube videos in order to learn how to use these different technologies. But when somebody comes to you and is like, do you know how to do this? It's like, I can probably figure that out.
Yeah, for sure.
There's more value in that than being, oh yeah, I've done that for 10 years. Well, okay.
Well, and it is, one of the best things about what we do for a living is that you learn something every single day. And a lot like discovery, that's one of the reasons why I always enjoy the discovery process, because you're learning so much about the thing that you're going to be intimately involved with going forward, right? Yeah, it's important.
All right. Well, we've gone a long time talking about many different things. And I want to bring up, and hopefully this new topic doesn't send us off into a rabbit hole that takes us another hour of conversation. But I wanted to introduce a new segment that I call I Remember When.
Oh, shall I get my pipe?
Right.
I'm going to grab my smoking jacket. I'll be right back.
Put on your comfy robe and your slippers and maybe a glass of bourbon. Now reach back into the past and pull a tech memory that you thought was really cool at the time.
I remember when the dial-up tone would sing. Loading screens were slow, but they meant everything. Floppy disks and CDs, a simpler time to send. Oh, take me back again. I remember when. I remember when.
So I can start.
Well, of course, you came up with the idea, so you
right.
throw us,
well, I
didn't.
I just thought of it when I was talking about it. There was this thing, and I still have it here in my desk drawer because I still think, oh, this is still cool. It was a USB device that would read the position of your hands, and you'd be able to manipulate your desktop with your hands.
Yep, I had one.
And I'm like,
yeah,
it's something like that. It was V something, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. This could be a game changer. Used it for about half an hour and was like, my arms are tired.
Yeah.
It doesn't read my hand position very well.
Yeah.
So it's going in the desk drawer. So I'm thinking now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I don't know why I'm still hanging on to it. I haven't plugged it into a system for at least 15 years.
Wow.
So,
yeah. There's a few things that come to mind. One kind of a similar thing. I used to play a lot of like racing games, right? On PlayStation, Xbox, you name it. And I was just infatuated to get like a wheel and pedals for this thing. Now, mind you, I did not have a desk set up like a lot of people do. I sat on the couch, right? And I finally get the steering wheel and pedals and get set up on my couch, and it is just not optimal at all. Then I tried to set up like sort of a desk, right? I had a chair that I moved to and had a board that I would put across the armrests and try that, and that sucked. And finally, like I used it maybe for a month here and there trying to make it work, and it just never worked. And I realized, like, no, you know what? This old controller of mine is exactly what I need because I can kick back, it's relaxed, it's comfortable. I'm not working extra for it. You know what I mean? Kind of like some of the Wii games where, oh, this is really cool. You want to do the track and field thing and you can run. Well, do I really want to run? No, man. I want to sit on the couch and play this game.
You took the U-turn right before I did. I actually went farther with the stupid racing game thing. I went and bought one of those play seat things.
Oh, no way.
It's like, oh yeah. I went all in, and I didn't have like all the monitors around like some things you see, but I did buy a place. This thing took up a whole bunch of room.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool for like a month.
Right.
But, Forza was fun. Well, yeah.
Forza is a good game. I wanted to build one of those things, James.
Yeah,
because I you could find plans anywhere for like plastic tubing and build one yourself and stuff like that. But wow, that's a lot of work.
I want one that's like a convertible, so I can go from work mode to play mode and like swing in the stuff so that the focus is more on the wheel and joystick type setups and then I can push it out of the way when I need to work.
Right. Well, now we have VR, so much easier.
I don't know if the games I play don't support VR yet.
No? That sucks, man.
I know, it does. I was really hoping it did because it's, like kind of a first person type simulator. I was like, it would be really nice if I could turn my head and look out the side.
Yeah.
But okay. So we got Steve's, we got mine. What's yours, James?
So you put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of it. The best thing I come up with is just like what I've been doing on the side now is kind of just like going back to basics, man, like back to data structures and algorithms. And I'm like, I remember when like you're doing computing for computing's sake, not business problem. Like you're like, oh, I'm writing a bubble sort, like whatever, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I've really enjoyed that work. Like I think I just did a red black tree or something like that, and it's like, wow, this was awesome. And the novelty of that in college, learning this the first time was really cool. So I really enjoyed kind of going back to the basics. I don't know if that qualifies for remember when, but that's the best I could come up with on short notice.
Yeah.
I've done that with old languages. Like I remember doing all these things in another language. Like, what if I tried to port them to a modern language?
Oh yeah.
I'm doing it in Kotlin. It's kind of me helping me learn Kotlin, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, matter of fact, I've got like some books that I keep close, like this one, the basic book, which has a bunch of algorithms from BASIC. I'm like, oh, what if I put those into like React or Python or something like that, and it's the same kind of deal. I used to have one, and I think I let somebody borrow it, and I never got it back, which was technology interview questions, and it had all of these like interview level.
Like I've got the green one, cracking the coding interview or something like that.
Yeah. And it had things like, write a bubble sort, write, a prime factorization application, right? These things. And I'm like, these are really cool. And some of those are great brain exercises for opening up your thinking and maybe shining some light into some dark corners that you need a little more learning on.
Well, it's kind of funny when you, like James said, when you go back to basics, right? Like I remember having a basic course in college, and it was, I mean, I'm old, dude. So what I would do is have this 5.25-inch floppy that I would write my program on. I would print it off on a spool printer in the student union. I would bring it in, and I remember going in, and I had like, a 15-page printout all connected on the spool, and it didn't work, and I couldn't figure out why. Now, any modern IDE would be like, hey, you're missing a semicolon, right? But, we didn't have that. And so I walk in, talk to my professor, who was a really cool dude. He's like a drummer in a band. He had long hair. He was really cool. I'm like, Tim, man, I'm stumped. I've been looking at this thing for like the last 3 days. I don't know what the hell's wrong with it. He unravels this whole 15 pages, gives it a quick scan. He's like, oh, right there, man, you're missing a semicolon. I don't know how he does it, right?
It's this blade thing, I just can't get this mower to work. I don't know what. Well, Carl here is a whiz with these mowers. What's wrong with it, Carl? I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's your problem. Ain't got no gas in it.
Ain't got no gas in
it. Yeah, there are those things. It was like I ran into that just yesterday. I was driving. I'm like, why is this not running? I'm looking at it. It's a very simple like mapper type thing. I've got the right annotation. I've got the field in the right place, and it's just not. It's still coming back null. I'm like, look at it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, all I needed to do was do a clean build of it, and I'm like, oh, for Pete's sakes, Yep. I was like, I spent half the day trying to figure out why this, I'm putting in, like I'm debugging it. And I'm like trying to go to the line, and it's like it's skipping over the line. Why is it skipping over the line? That makes no sense. I'm like, oh, clean build. All right, everything's green, done.
Good old map struct.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that's fun. All right. Now for the most important segment of the podcast, the lightning round.
The lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
All right, so the way the lightning round works is we're going to ask you a series of questions. These questions are very important, so take your time, think about your answers. We will rapid fire these back and forth at you for about 10 questions, more if we think you deserve them. So, James, would you like to start us off today?
Absolutely. When people stand up for a standing ovation, are you usually one of the earlier people to stand up or one of the later people to stand up?
Later.
Name a primate besides monkeys and apes.
Chimpanzees.
Excellent.
Would you rather wake up to an air horn blowing in your ear every day or wake up and have to run 4 miles every day?
Oh, God. If I could wake up with an air horn and then run 4 miles, that would be optimal.
That'd be the better. Okay. So
wow. All right.
There's no or there. It's an and.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Sourdough or wheat?
Sourdough. Better for you.
If Tupac appeared before you right now, what's the first thing you would ask him?
I'd say, did you hit him hard?
Well done.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Godfather or Star Wars?
Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we would have also accepted Star Wars. What type of milk do you put in your cereal?
2%.
2%.
Favorite type of muffin?
Blueberry.
That's a hard-hitting question right there. I'm glad that he hadn't answered that quickly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Without a doubt.
Do you Instagram your food?
No. I'm old. I Facebook it.
Oh, that's got to be the best answer I've heard.
Yeah.
Climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
Oh, Jesus. Climb a mountain.
Yeah, I
No desire to jump out of a plane.
I don't even.
Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
Right.
What's the lamest, and I'm going to do air quotes because there's quotes here, dessert that people try to pass off as a dessert?
Wow. That's a good question. I have no idea. I don't really eat dessert.
But when people like bring out their dessert and you're like, oh, wow, that's phoning it in, isn't it?
Jello.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent answer. Now, for the hardest one of the round, say something cool.
Ice.
Excellent.
Well done.
All right, that concludes this episode of the Forward Slash, where we lean into the future of IT. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast for future episodes. I'd like to thank our guest, Steve Berardelli, for talking with us about discovery and all things related to that, and then a couple things not related to it. I'd also like to thank my beautiful co-host, James, and all of our production staff that make this podcast possible. I'm Aaron Chesney. Thank you, and stay curious.